What is up, guys? Welcome to part 2 of the rail tutorial video for the modified Stryker. So this is what we have so far. As you can see, we sort of made these holes a little bit bigger. We cut off 2 centimeters and we made the new hole, and it came out really perfect. So pretty much what's left to do is make a whole slot right here for the new cables. And it's gonna start from the end of this part right here all the way down to the bottom of this hole. I'm gonna actually mark it down with tape, one, to like prevent it from, you know, getting beat up or scratched, and two, so you sort of have an idea on where to cut it. Alright, I marked it down with tape. Hopefully you guys could see it. So pretty much whatever is uncovered is what we're gonna be knocking off. We're gonna turn this into a big slot like this. And I left the hole so you could sort of use that as a marker on how big to make the slot, you know. So we're pretty much going to try to get it as low as this spot right here, this low spot on the rail. So this whole metal piece we're going to be taking off. We're going to be taking off this little lip. We're going to be taking off everything. We're just going to make this into a big slot. Now you can make the slot shorter. It doesn't have to go back this much. I don't think so. But just trust me on this. Just make it like mine. Because if the string were to ever snap, your cables just have more room to, like, you know, move around if the string were to ever snap. So it's pretty much for safety for your crossbow. I bought some tools. Back then when I first made this modification, I used just a regular file for like chainsaws. It was really small. I bought much bigger ones this time, and a little handle, and you're probably going to go through a whole pack of these Dremel things. Now you can use a mill, which will make the process so much more easier. Someone used a mill that I know, and his came out really perfect. But I'm not going to spend like $400 on a mill. I'm just going to do it by hand. Now I'm not sure how well I'm going to be able to capture it on camera when I'm using the Dremel, but pretty much I'm going to start with this piece. I'm going to start from this side. I'm going to try to knock off this little lip, and then I'm gonna go all the way up to here and then come from the bottom. As you can see, the bottom has some pretty nice room to get in there with the Dremel. And then once I have those two parts cut out, I'm gonna cut off this side. And yeah, these side pieces aren't really that hard to get off with the Dremel. The hard part is, you know, trying to make it look clean. And then once these two sided pieces are out, I'm gonna try to get in here with the Dremel as best as I can. And once I can't anymore, I'm going to have to get in there with a file. Patience is key, guys. Do not rush this at all. Like I said, you really can't mess this up. Only thing you really want to focus on is making it look clean. Now, I'm not sure if mine is going to look clean. My Dremel might even skip and accidentally scratch the whole thing. You never know, but be patient, don't rush it, and hold on to the freaking Dremel tight as hell if you're going to do this. Alright, here's the progress so far. We got rid of those side pieces. Now the hard part is getting the damn middle piece, because you can't really fit a Dremel in there. I might need to go in there with a file. I might try to get in there with the Dremel just a little bit. And don't worry about the inside of this if it gets scratched up. As you can see, I nicked it a few times, because we're going to be filing it down anyway, and it's all going to turn into a metal color anyway. So yeah, I still have a little bit of room in the lip. I gotta shorten that a little bit so it could be flush with the bottom, but I'm gonna do that with a file. as I was filing, I just remembered something. I actually remembered that I knocked off a part of this back, so I'm going to leave just a little gap still, but I might just knock off just a little bit of this with the angle grinder probably. That's probably going to help us way more to get more room in there to work with. Alright, that is way better. You could actually fit more tools in there, bigger tools in there to get that middle piece out of there faster. I got that. I just cut it off with the angle grinder and the Dremel. Now you could actually fit bigger tools in there. I'm still going to do the same thing, but it's going to be easier to work with at least. Well, holy crap, guys. What was that? Like 3 to 4 hours? That took a long ass time. That was a lot of filing, but I finally got it done. It came out perfect. I always leave a little piece of aluminum there in the center because I don't know why I leave it. I like having it there because I'm not sure if this corner could be a weak point now. So I just love having a little piece of reinforcement there, and it's not going to affect anything, so I just leave it there. And yeah, that's pretty much it on the rail. One last thing to do is, now that this is filed down, you're not going to have a cable slide anymore. So you're going to have to put a piece of plastic over this so the cables, you know, to reduce the friction on the cables. And the plastic could be from anything. I personally like using, for example, like this type of plastic, really soft plastic from like a bin or something. Just cut it into a square and glue it onto this. I'm gonna try to find a black one. I might not be able to. So I got this little piece of plastic off of those like to-go boxes from a restaurant. I'm probably not gonna use this. This thing is way too thin. And I don't know, but if I were to use this, I would use Gorilla Glue, put a thin line of Gorilla Glue, and then compress it with something. Get one of those clamps and really compress it in there. I'm probably not going to end up using this. I'm not going to glue it on because I don't really like this. But yeah, I did just get a marker and I painted it a little bit just for looks. And yeah, I'm pretty much going to put this rail aside from now, and I'm going to be demonstrating on my actual rail. So this is the piece I put on. It's a much thicker piece and it's really smooth. I like putting rail lube on this just so the cables move around freely. And yeah, this rail I've had for I don't know how many years. You could look back in my videos and see when I made this modification, but I've had it for many years. And it has been through a lot. When I bought it, this thing was stripped and I got a thread insert and I put it in there and I JB welded it, and luckily it's been holding up. As you guys saw in the picture, this part expanded. Somehow it expanded because I drilled a hole too close to the other one. And I just said screw it, and I just put JB Weld all over this thing internally on the top, and I pretty much made this sling mount one whole piece. So everything in here is pretty much JB welded internally. Now something I do want to discuss is you got to reinforce this part somehow. You want to fill in that gap from the old hole somehow. This is aluminum. I'm not sure if it's possible to weld it and just, you know, fill this in somehow. What I was going to do is I was just going to go with the simple solution. I was just going to cut a piece of metal into this shape and just have it on there. I wasn't even going to glue it or anything, because once you put on the riser and you screw on the bolt, it's going to compress it and it's not going to go anywhere. So yeah, I was just going to cut off a piece of metal into this shape and fill it in. But I do recommend filling this in somehow. And that's pretty much it for the rail tutorial video. Obviously, only thing that's left to do is just flip the cams around to the other side to have the string in the bottom. And you need a crossbow press to do that. There's no getting away from it. You need to get a crossbow press. I wouldn't take it to an archery store because they always get all sketched out. A lot of bow shops are like that. They're not going to put their hands on a modified crossbow. So I don't know. You need a crossbow press. The one I have is an easy green crossbow press. I think it's like $400, $500. This whole project, guys, is not cheap to do. And yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for the tutorial part of the crossbow. Now I'm just going to be blabbing for a bit the pros and cons. I'm going to start with the pros. The limbs are not bent as much as they used to be, so I'm hoping the limbs last a bit longer now, because if you know anything about Stryker crossbows, the limbs have been known to split. Hopefully this modification increases the life of the limbs. The other pro is it's way easier to cock. The whole point of this modification, the person that invented this, was he did it so it could be easier to cock, because the real Stryker pinches your fingers like hell. And now you don't even think about it. It's like a dream to load. You just load it like nothing. It's a lot like a recurve bow, like a recurve crossbow. So that's the other pro of this modification. And the other one is how quiet it is. It's way more quieter now. And I did also put in a piece of fabric in between the riser and the rail, which I think also made it help be more quiet. Maybe you guys could do that also and confirm for me, but I think that really helped quieten it down a lot. And the other one is the strings. So obviously you lose power because you cut off part of the rail, and the cams don't spin as much as they used to. So the crossbow is about 20 pounds weaker, which could be a good thing because now the strings are going to last a little bit longer. And now for the cons. I want to start the biggest con on this for most people is going to be you're going to lose a lot of power. You lose about 20 pounds of draw weight, but the FPS you lose even more, because the FPS on the Stryker is mainly on the cams. Now that they're not spinning as much as they used to, you're going to lose a lot of FPS. I don't have a chronograph to tell you exactly how much, but you lose 20 pounds of power, but you lose even more FPS, if that's a thing. So it's not going to be as fast either. The second con is a few years ago, I showed a hack that you could do. You could lock the cams and change the string. Well, now you're not going to be able to do that anymore. You need a crossbow press every time you want to change the string. That's part of the sacrifice you got to do if you want your crossbow modified like this. And the last con I would say is probably the string stops. I wouldn't say it's a big con. You really don't even need the string stops because the crossbow itself is already quiet, but you're not going to have any more string stops. I got a rivet kit tool with thread inserts, and I just put rivets. I just drilled in holes and I put in rivets with the threads, and that's how I got the string stops back on. You really want to try putting them sort of high, and you might also need to trim down the bottom of the rubber. You can use a tap and die kit. I didn't try that, so a tap and die kit might be possible if you want to have string stops again. But if you're going to be using your rivet tool like I did, you got to make sure that you have metal string stops, because they have metal string stops and they also have plastic ones. You got to have the metal ones if you want to use a rivet tool, because a good way to tell whether your string stops are plastic or metal, the metal ones are hollow right here. They have this little hole. But you need metal ones because for the rivet tool, I had to put in bigger screws. And in order to put in bigger screws, you gotta drill in holes in the string stop itself. You gotta make the holes bigger. And if you were to do that on the plastic ones, it would literally just snap. So you gotta drill in bigger holes on the string stop itself if you want to put in bigger screws. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I haven't really done anything to modify it aside from the piece of fabric. I did also put in those lock washers, those split lock washers, I think that's what they're called, because back then when I was having this problem with the sling mount being all loose, the bolt would always just loosen up, and I put those lock washers on there. And I probably don't even need them anymore, but I don't know, just so you're wondering, I did put some lock washers. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Let me know if you have any questions, and see you guys later.